When hope is gone, undo this lock and send me forth on a moonlit walk. Release restraint level 0. Hey kids, wanna see a dead body?
Hi guys, this is Devoid of the Ravenclaw. Welcome back to another fanfiction story. If you like this type of content, smash the like button and subscribe for future videos and updates that I do post on my community tab frequently. If you want to get access to any of my early content, check out the Discord. This is the bargain between an evil god and a villain, part 13. Let's continue where we last left off in our story. Izuku continued to laugh with a psychotic grin as he tilted his head to the side to keep his opponent in his eyesight. Izuku's green eyes began to glow brighter, a bright green color. Luga, previous fear, turned into rage and charged towards Izuku with his bare hands. With his sword destroyed, he has no other weapons besides his armor gauntlets. Izuku's psychotic grin did not falter. He allowed his opponent to get closer. His grin only increased the closer the skeleton knight got. Once Luga got close enough to Izuku, Izuku caught his fist and yanked him forward, slamming his knee into the stomach, then palm strike Luga in the face, sending the skeleton Black Knight backwards in a skid. When Luga finally stopped moving, dozens of sharp bone spears materialized into existence all around Luga, on all sides, even in the air, as he was completely boxed in. Izuku took control of them, psychically. Sorry guys, give me a second guys. Izuku took control of them, psychically, like he controls all his other offenses, bone manipulation attacks, with his quirk. As all of the very sharp bone spears launched towards Luga, all at once, Luga had no choice but to tank the attack by the multiple spears flying towards him, by crossing his arms. Several of the bone weapons did not pierce his armor, but a few of the bone spears managed to pierce pieces of his armor. But Luga pulled them out and threw the weapons to the side. Luga extended his hand outwards towards his broken sword. All of the pieces of the shattered sword lift up from the ground and fly towards Luga. The first piece that arrived was the broken hilt of the sword, as Luga caught it in his hands, and the rest of the pieces shoot towards the hilt, forming into the sword, as the broken lines of the blade begins to heat up and melt and repair itself, like it was never broken in the first place. Izuku did not stop him. He allowed him to do whatever he was trying to do. Interesting. Very interesting. He wasn't shocked or surprised that the skeleton was able to reform and repair its broken weapon. From past experience from the other skeletons, He's not too surprised by that. Give him the perfect chance to break in. Give him plenty of chance to break it again. And that's exactly what he's going to do as he rushed forward and duck under a wide sword swing, then kick the flat end of the sword to the side, making Luga go off balance slightly. Then Izuku created a blaster skull gauntlets around his entire hand and forearm, and blast a beam out of the mouth of the gauntlet from his skull gauntlet mouth, point blank range, sending the Black Knight flying backwards, slamming into a part of the wall of the Colosseum. The gauntlets basically look like this. Give you a reference what they look like. But the amount of power he hit Luga with, that managed to surprise Izuku. His Gaster Blaster gauntlets, or Skull Blaster gauntlets, were never that powerful before. He could feel it. Despite the power of his attack, it barely made a dent in his reserves. My control is basically shit out of the creek. I'm going to have to go back and get everything under control. This upgrade end up bringing everything out of whack. Bit irritating, but it has to be done, but not now. Izuku casually tilted his head to the side, dodging a sword swing from Luga, who just appeared out of nowhere. You're dead. That would be quite a feat, wouldn't it, Skeletor? Luga, of course, doesn't understand the reference, but he figured it was some sort of insult. That just filled his attacks even further. But no matter what he did, Izuku easily dodged and weaved around his large sword swings. With his hands in his pocket, he's no longer has his Gaster Blaster gauntlets on his forearm and hands. Ever since he got his upgrade from Zelik, Luga's movements are slow, far more slower. At first, when the battle started, he could barely keep up with him, but now, it's like he's moving in slow motion. He could feel he hasn't even tapped into what his body could really do. In theory, if he used full strength, he could probably take out the skeleton, but that would be too boring. This is the perfect opportunity to test out his body's capabilities. Izuku kicked the back of the knee of the Skeleton Knight, forcing Luga to fall down onto one knee. Then he immediately rolled out of the way as a bone spear appeared out of nowhere and slammed into the ground where he was originally before he rolled out of the way. Izuku kicked the bone spear out of the ground, then kicked the spear again and flung it towards Luga, who finally got onto his feet. The spear immediately made contact with his chest plate of the Skeleton Knight's armor. The bone shattered. Spear shattered, but Izuku controlled all the sharp shards of the broken spear to flung towards the armor, hitting it repeatedly. Luga could tell his armor won't be able to withstand any more serious damage. The bone shards managed to cut a couple pieces of his armor away, the weak point of his armor. That's when he immediately backed off. Luga's racial trait, being a undead skeleton, activated, calming him down. Luga needed time to come up with a battle strategy, so he instantly created skeletons in part of the Colosseum where there's plenty of ground that's not tile floor, as several skeleton warriors burst out of the ground. Luga then created a magical dome of energy over himself for extra protection while he formulates a strategy plan while his skeleton warriors engage Izuku in battle. Meanwhile, Izuku did not try to stop him from using his magic. He didn't know his opponent was capable of using magic. He originally thought the skeleton Black Knight was no magic user, but a straight melee fighter. He wasn't disappointed that he was wrong. He was actually intrigued to fight this type of opponent that can use a sword and magic. But first, he has to deal with the small fry, the skeleton warriors that he managed to summon out of the ground, or create. He's not really sure. Does Izuku care? Most definitely not. Izuku allowed one of the skeleton warriors, to get nice and close. Then he struck like a viper, slamming his fist into the chest of one of the skeleton warrior. The moment his fist made contact with the bone chest of the skeleton warrior vaporized into bone particles just by the physical force of Izuku's punch or strike. Izuku could only whistle at the display of power that he just displayed. Now that's what I'm talking about. Well, boys, don't come all at once. There's plenty for all of you. Izuku began to dodge around their sloppy sword swings. When one of the skeleton warriors tried to shield bash Izuku in the face, he simply caught it in the palm of his hand and pushed the skeleton warrior back. Doing so, the skeleton warrior shot backwards like a rocket. Izuku clearly misjudged how much power he just used in that gentle push just now. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Oh well. Yeah, my control is basically shit now. Gonna have to fix that sooner or later. Izuku flash step right above one of the two remaining skeleton warriors. Moved so fast, the skeleton warriors couldn't keep track of his movements. When they realized they were being attacked, that their core was being targeted, it was already too late. Their cores begin to shatter, turning the skeletons into bone particles as their weapons fall to the ground, making a clink noise that echoed throughout the Colosseum. Izuku casually approached the dome-like magic barrier. The barrier itself is black with a little mixture of green inside it. The color mixture was quite a sight to witness. But regardless aesthetics of the barrier, Izuku begins to observe the dome-like barrier with a keen interest. He tests out the structure by flicking his finger into the dome of energy, of pure magic. There was a slight pulse when his finger flick made contact. No visible damage, but he could tell Luga felt him testing his magical barrier. But the skeleton knight continued to remain composed and concentrated and maintain his magical dome barrier, and trying to formulate a new strategy at the same time. Izuku stepped several steps backwards. With a snap of his finger that echoed throughout the Colosseum, as several large blaster skulls appeared and hovered all around the magical barrier, charging up their energy. Fire. As all the floating blaster skulls opened fire at the same time at the magical dome in all different directions, all at once. When the green light receded from his energy attack, all that left the magical barrier, majority of it was destroyed, as pieces begin to fall off and disappear into light. As you can see, a severely damaged skeleton Black Knight in the middle of his broken magical barrier. Luga wasn't expecting that sort of attack. He had his sword planted in the ground, so he wasn't sent flying backwards. Fortunately, most of his armor was completely destroyed. His armor managed to tank majority of the blunt force of the energy attack in his sword. Luga couldn't come up with anything solid. Each new strategy he formulated in his mind, he could easily see his opponent easily countering. Luga rose to his feet. Luga knows his true death is fast approaching, but he will not stop fighting. If he dies here and gets destroyed, then he'll die on his feet. He might be an undead skeleton warrior, but he's still a warrior. And that part of him will never be erased, not even by the corruption that's coursing through his body or his bones. Even that couldn't damage his warrior pride and spirit. As he slowly stepped one step closer to his blade, as pieces of his remaining armor begin to fall, revealing no core whatsoever. This is the first time Izuku fought a skeleton warrior or knight that has no core, no easy weakness to target it. He's going to have to completely eradicate the soldier completely. No half measures, just complete obliteration. You know you can't win this. I'm fully aware, human. I underestimated you. Finish it, claim your victory. But it will be a hollow victory at best. You cannot defeat the Dark One. You will fall. We'll just see about that. You fought well. Now die. As a whole army of blaster skulls come into existence, scattered in the air. There were too many to count. All Luga could do is just struggle to stay on his feet, watching a full army of those floating skulls charging up, a powerful gathering of pure energy out of their mouths. All the different bright sources look like miniature suns being charged up. Luga did not falter. He charged forward, screaming in his distorted undead voice, as the beams fly through the sky, leading directly towards him. One beam of energy hit his right shoulder, completely obliterating the right side of his body, as another one hit another part of his body, until the entire figure was engulfed into multiple beams of energy. When the beams receded and finally stopped and faded away into harmless light, you can see Luga barely standing. Pieces of his skeleton body is completely missing, and the rest of his remaining skeleton body is slowly crumbling away. His proud weapon shattered once again. On the floor, Luga could only smile. Majority of the corruption was completely vaporized from that attack. He spoke up, his true self finally coming to the surface. "Thank you, warrior. You finally free me. But this is only the beginning. Tougher trials await you, warrior." As he completely dissolved into bone particles and fall harmlessly to the ground in a pile. Sorry about that, my cat knocked over my computer speaker. Let's continue. Before Izuku could do anything further, a digital screen appeared in the sky displaying danger, intruder alert. As he was forcibly exit out of the Cerberus system, that took him by surprise. When he opened his eyes, he was in the Cerberus pod in his laboratory underneath the stadium of the Quark Blast tournament. He opened the lid to the pod and stepped out. "What's going on? Why did you pull me out?" "I had no choice. I had to pull you out. We're being attacked. Someone infiltrated the stadium, and they're making their way down towards the laboratory." "Do we know who it is?" "Negative. I'm already downloading all the data on a backup drive." Izuku looked at the monitors with several camera feeds, live feeds, as he saw them, white cloaks, figures attacking the security of the stadium, using sword and fire. Lulu took the backup drive and put in her lab coat and pocketed it. Once everything was fully downloaded on the backup drive, she plunged the entire system, including the Cerberus pods. She overheat basically overheat the pods. They'll eventually melt into nothing, and fried all of the electronic devices in the laboratory, making her inventions to be completely useless and can't be recovered. Then she directed her nephew through a secret escape route in her laboratory. She opened a hidden doorway behind a false wall, back of the laboratory. They followed the secret passage that led into a abandoned abandoned subway tunnel. Just follow that tunnel, you'll eventually get to the surface. We'll have to cut this short. It'll be some time before I could set up another laboratory. We'll continue where we last left off. Good, because I'm quite invested in this little program you have me running. Indeed you are. As Lulu walked away, disappeared into the darkness of the subway tunnel, leaving Izuku by himself. But he didn't notice. His body's back to normal. He must have shifted back out of his power transformation state. The green crystal is no longer on his forehead, but he could tell it's still there. All that power that just needs to be pulled out. But for now, he keeps his original state. But he could still tell he's a lot more stronger and faster, even in this state. But there's still limits. There's still limits in his base form. But when he activated his power form, I haven't decided on a name for it, but I'll worry about that later on during the story. But anyways, let's continue. Or boost form, he has access to. His latent power is just waiting to be unleashed. But Izuku could tell his quirk is changing. Not changing into something new. But he could tell it's running completely different. What limitations he had with his abilities are slowly being overridden. He could feel it. The process is not complete, but he could still feel it. The slight changes. But it was already getting late. He's already been gone for several hours. Despite being a Cerberus system, it felt like he was only in there for a couple days. In truth, only a few hours has passed. He knows, for certain, time runs differently when he's in the Cerberus system. But he chose not to ponder on it any further. He's hungry, tired, and wants to go home to get some rest. He needs to move fast. The last thing he needs is to have those white cloaked freaks, catch up with him. With his control out of whack, it would be smart of him to not engage them in open battle. Especially while he's still in his civilian persona. He followed the subway tunnel leading out of the subway station, or leading through the subway station, that's been completely abandoned. He followed up the stairs and found himself in a really bad part of the city, far away from the stadium. Izuku casually walked down the street. The sun is beginning to fall as the moon is beginning to rise. Izuku's new senses picked up that he's being trailed. Someone's been following him. He doesn't see anyone, but he knows they're there and they're following him. So he casually walked down the street like nothing is wrong. Izuku led whoever's following him into a nearby park. The moment he entered the park, some sort of barrier was activated, preventing any of the general population to know what they're doing inside the barrier. The barrier is not meant to keep him inside. It's to keep everyone out. The park was extremely foggy, as several white hooded figures could be seen in the midst of the fog. Izuku jumped onto a nearby tree trunk from a nearby tree. Izuku placed his hand mere inches away from his face and moved it in a claw-like motion, like he was clawing something, as a black bone skull mask appeared on his face. The lead hooded figure stepped forward. "I know you're there, tainted one. Come out and face your cleansing. You cannot escape us, Zelik, or your little host." Izuku flash stepped from the tree branch and appeared in the open right in front of them. "So you must be the holy church I've heard so much about, and you must be the leader. So that makes you Lydia, I presume?" "That I am. You're clearly a crafty one. Not many people could invade my executioners for so long. But your luck has finally ran out, boy. You're gonna die here. You've already been tainted by that parasite. Worry not. You won't suffer much. I promise you that. Your soul will be cleansed, either by willingness or by force." "Yeah, I'm going to have to say no. I'm not interested in your little salvation. I could care less why you're trying to hunt me down, or why you're trying to hunt down Zelik. But I suppose I could play with you for a little bit." Lydia motioned her troops, her executioners, with a hand gesture. "Take him." All of the hooded figures charged forward with their swords in their hands. Izuku gave them a cocky smirk, while Lydia just stand there and watch, not moving from her position. just standing there with her hands behind her back. Izuku was surprised. Their speed was impressive. They reach him in mere seconds. Izuku created a bone sword, blocking the first sword swing coming in his way. Then creating a bone shield, just in time to block a incoming fireball. Izuku flashed towards the executioner that cast the fireball, and shield bashed him across the face, sending the executioner into a nearby tree, completely shattering the tree trunk into wood pieces. Then he instantly threw his shield at the executioner. He just shield bash. At the edge of the shield turned into bone-like blades. The shield flew through the air, cutting off the executioner's head before he could recover, as his head began to roll on the ground. Watching one of their comrades die, and their comrade's soul get absorbed into Izuku's shadow, made them enforce their attacks with everything they had. Of course, Izuku's unaware that the soul of the executioner he just killed is being devoured by Zelik, making Zelik more powerful. The leader of the Holy Knights, the executioner squad, just stood there, watched one of her subordinates just get killed with no emotion on her face. She slightly narrowed her eyes, noticing the soul of her subordinate get sucked into the corrupted vessel, Shadow. There was no anger, no remorse. Her expression was blank. Like the death of her warrior, was just a simple setback. She has lost many executioners in her holy duty to eradicate all corruption and evil. She knows full well her duty comes first, before her personal feelings. Lydia will mourn their loss in her own way, but first, she needs to cleanse this abomination. Izuku began to cut down one executioner after another by chopping off their head, and more of their souls get devoured by Zelik in Izuku's shadow, until Lydia was the only one left. Lydia slowly summon her weapon in her hand. A golden blade materialized, enchanted sword, a magical blade that has slain and cleansed many forms of corruption and evil. She charged forward with insane speed. Izuku managed to block just in time with his own sword. If he encountered this woman earlier, he probably wouldn't be able to keep track of her movements. But now he's a lot more stronger. As their blades continuously collide with each other, making sparks as they fight around the park. Lydia redirected Izuku's sword swing to the side, making him slightly off balance. Then she delivered a devastating magical infused punch into his chest, sending Izuku right into the brick wall that separated the normal park from the children's playground, cracking the brick underneath him when he made contact. Lydia appeared right in front of him in a flash step and slammed her sword into the ground, then began to unleash a devastating fist into Izuku's body. As she repeatedly began to strike him with both of her fists, she roughly grabbed him by the face by grabbing onto his bone mask and tossing him flying like a rocket into a nearby tree with her magic-infused strength. Lydia grabbed her hilt of her sword and yanked it out of the ground and began to walk towards him as her blade begins to grind against the cement walkway, making sparks. as she gets closer. Then suddenly she appeared right in front of him as she plunged forward. As she managed to get on his feet. As she plunged her holy sword right into his shoulder, piercing his skin. She yanked her blade out of Izuku's left shoulder, then aggressively kicked him in the stomach, sending him flying across the park, slamming into a tree. Izuku was breathing heavy as he coughed up blood. Damn, that woman's pretty ruthless. Zelik finally spoke up. You haven't seen anything yet. You're just seeing the surface of her cruelty. I would advise you to immediately withdraw, even with your newfound power that you have access to. You're still no match for her. You can't even control it yet. Your downfall is most definitely guaranteed if you continue this battle. Izuku immediately dodged out of the way as a lunging Lydia was thrusting her sword in his direction. He knows even if he activated his boost state, his boost form, he most definitely doesn't stand a chance against her. Their blades begin to collide with each other once again. The last blade colliding with each other turn into a power struggle as the two blades begin to grind against each other. You can't win this. Don't make me have to get serious, boy. Sorry, I think I'm going to have to take a hard pass on that. As a large blaster skull materialized right behind her, it instantly charged up its energy and unleashing a powerful palm strike, a powerful beam of energy. Lydia, sensing the danger, and it's not like she can't see the glowing green light on the ground from the beam being charged up. She flash stepped and appeared right behind Izuku and slammed a vicious kick into his back, sending him flying right into his own attack. Sensing his situation, he couldn't cancel the attack. It was already too late. As he braced himself, as his own attack hit him, creating a large energy explosion. Izuku managed to create a large bone shield to tank most of the damage, but he still was severely injured. As smoke was created, concealing his presence. For some reason, she hasn't pressed the attack, so he used this opportunity to make a shuttle portal as he fell back into the portal, closing right behind him. Lydia, sensing what he just did, charged forward and swung her blade, instantly blowing away all of the smoke as she growled and cast a fireball, blowing up a nearby tree in anger. You might have got away this time, you abomination, but next time we meet, you will die. Lydia deactivated the magical barrier and burned all the corpses of her dead executioners and took their weapons and activated her stealth spell, turning herself invisible, and made her way back to her base of operation. She has lost a lot of executioners, but luckily for her, she didn't bring everyone here. So she has plenty of executioners back at the home base, and more should be arriving in a couple days. He's not oblivious on how dangerous this new vessel of Zelik is. He might not be as dangerous as that corrupted god, but knowing him, how that parasite works, Its vessel is probably not far behind. Leaving him alone for too long only makes him more dangerous. When Izuku arrived at his home base of operation, beaten and battered, he struggled to stay on his feet and slowly made his way to the first aid kit and began to take care of the stab wound in his left shoulder and the rest of the cuts and burns he got from his own attack. That's where we're going to stop it for now. I'll catch you guys in the next part.